Wide receiver has been a point of contention in Kansas City for quite some time now, and now here we are with an article from Yardbarker which claims they might have some answer for some position in the wide receiver room. I'm not sure this is plausible. I'm just going to put it that way. Yardberger writes, quote, "With the emergence of Rashee Rice as a rookie in 2023, the wide receiver room is beginning to get a bit crowded. The Kansas City Chiefs aren't sellers by any means, but if they can deal from a surplus to add draft capital, they would strongly consider it. One of the players who could be on the trade block, in the opinion of Gary Davenport of Bleacher Report, is wide receiver Skyy Moore, a second-round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft out of Western Michigan. Has not panned out. In 2 seasons with the Chiefs, Moore has played 30 games, catching 43 passes for 494 yards and 1 touchdown. He has added 6 rushes for 47 yards. His 2023 campaign ended on injured reserve because of a knee injury. Skyy has always been a mentally tough kid, Veach said. He had that knee injury last year too, so to some degree, it is just these guys being on the field and staying healthy, and then making plays when their number is called. That certainly sounds like someone trying to upsell a player who is no longer in the team's long-term plans. Only heading into year 3 of his professional career, Moore is in a similar boat to fellow wide receiver Kadarius Toney. Neither have shown any consistency when it comes to producing at the professional level. If the Kansas City Chiefs can get anything in exchange for them, even a late-round pick or a pick swap, they would likely jump at that opportunity. Alas, if you cannot produce catching passes from Patrick Mahomes, your outlook in the NFL isn't a very bright one. Expect Moore to operate as depth for Kansas City if he isn't traded during the summer. Now, the most interesting thing about this article, well, this article is a derivative of another article from Bleacher Report. The most interesting thing about these types of articles for the Kansas City Chiefs, and namely Skyy Moore this offseason, the most interesting thing about these articles is how uninteresting they are. The most interesting thing about this article is that they never get around to saying anything definitively. So what I am hoping to do in this video is clear a couple things, well, not clear a couple things up. I don't have the authority to do that, but here's the thing. Would the Kansas City Chiefs like to flip Skyy Moore for a second-round pick? Sure. Sure they would. It's very unlikely. Would the Kansas City Chiefs like to trade Skyy Moore for, I don't know, a bag of potato chips? Maybe. Maybe it would work. A can of mango bubbly? It's pretty good stuff. You got to get it cold, but the weird thing about carbonated water, it's good cold, but you can't put ice in it. Who knew? I don't think these articles, I think this is just clickbait. As much as they're touting up Skyy Moore to be trade bait, I think they're just clickbait. But I think there is still some type of productive conversation, if there's any such thing as productive conversation in the offseason of in a football offseason, right? There is still some type of productive conversation to be had here. These types of articles allow us the opportunity to step back and ask questions. Who is Skyy Moore? Well, Skyy Moore is kind of meh so far, right? Again, I will defend him in so far as this is concerned. The third year is traditionally when wide receivers break out. That has changed in the modern NFL, but Skyy Moore is also coming from Western Michigan. It is a lower rung of college football. Very competitive in that league, but still a lower rung of football. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to. In his rookie season, he caught 21 passes for 244 yards, an 11.6 yard average, and 1 touchdown. Last season, in his sophomore campaign in the NFL, 22 receptions, 250 yards, an 11.4 yard average, and 0 touchdowns. He is nothing if not consistent. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world. It is kind of a bad thing when you're picked in the mid-50s in the second round of the NFL draft. But we have a bit of a mixed tale with his athleticism as well. 5'9" and 5/8 inches tall. Not great, but not tiny. 195 pounds. That's a good-sized wide receiver, especially if you're cramming all that muscle into a sub 5'10" body. A 4.41 40-yard dash, that's a pretty good number. That's a good number. Anything in the 4.3s is lightning fast. 4.41, that is, you think 4.44 is kind of the gold standard, so that's a good speed. A 1.46 10-yard split, that is phenomenal. That is a real good number. But then he has just a 34.5-inch vertical leap, not an explosive number. Now, here's the thing that is, I went back through the 2022 NFL draft. In that draft, there were 38 wide receivers taken. And, give me a little bit of grace if I have got something wrong here. If I got something wrong here, it's not a whole lot that I've gotten wrong. 38 wide receivers taken. 11 of these wide receivers have had a more productive NFL career than Skyy Moore. This is where it gets absolutely wild. So Skyy Moore is around the 33rd percentile. The 11 wide receivers who have had a more productive career than him: Drake London by the Falcons. He was drafted in the first round, 8th overall, 1,771 career yards so far. Okay, he was taken 8th overall. We can live with that. Garrett Wilson, drafted by the Jets, 10th overall in the first round, 2,145 yards. We can live with that. He was a top 10 pick. Number 11. Chris Olave, 2,165 yards for the Saints so far in his NFL career. That's 3 guys in the top 11 picks of the draft. Okay, we just have to live with that. We're the Kansas City Chiefs. We draft 32nd overall 30% of the time. Jahan Dotson from the Commanders, 16th overall, 1,041 yards through 2 seasons. That's still 4 players, 4 of those 11 players are in the top half of the draft. Treylon Burks of the Titans, 665 yards. Barely better than Skyy Moore, but still better than Skyy Moore, 18th overall. That is 5 players of the 11 players that have been more productive than Skyy Moore. 5 of the 11 are top 20 picks. 5 of the 11 are top 20 picks. Then we have Christian Watson from the Packers, 2nd round, 34th overall, 1,033 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson of the Giants, 43rd overall, 752 yards. George Pickens, I know this is a sore subject, 2nd round, 53rd overall, 1,941 yards. Alec Pierce of the Colts, 2nd round, 53rd overall. 1,107 yards, pardon me. So of these 11 players more productive than Skyy Moore, 9 of them were drafted before Skyy Moore. And I know the Kansas City Chiefs traded back in order to pick Skyy Moore. Guys, the thing about that is they traded back, and in the 2 picks ahead of Skyy Moore, so Skyy Moore was picked 54th overall. George Pickens went 52nd. Alec Pierce went 53rd. The 2 picks leading up to him were also wide receivers. teams knew the Kansas City Chiefs wanted a wide receiver. Okay, so great. 9 of the 11 wide receivers taken in the 2022 NFL draft that are more productive than Skyy Moore were drafted before him. Very top-heavy draft for wide receivers. Those picked after him, Romeo Doubs of the Packers. Again, another Packers wide receiver from the 2022 NFL draft. But Romeo Doubs of the Packers, 4th round, 132 overall, 1,099 yards. And finally, Khalil Shakir from the Bills in the 5th round, 148th overall, 772 career yards. We're looking right here at Skyy Moore with 494 career yards. So long as my research is correct here, 38 wide receivers picked in the 2022 NFL draft, 11 more productive than Skyy Moore, 9 of them selected before Skyy Moore. So we can say all of the things we want about Skyy Moore. That, Lord knows, I certainly have on this channel throughout last season. I don't like looking like an idiot, and Skyy Moore is slowly making me look more like an idiot than normally I do. But when you take into account Skyy Moore was the 54th player selected, 54 out of 250-ish picks, 54th. There were 200 players picked after Skyy Moore. There were, therefore, 26 wide receivers selected after Skyy Moore. Only 2 of them have more productivity through 2 seasons in the NFL than Skyy Moore. This was a very top-heavy draft for wide receivers. 5 selected in the top 20 of the draft, and that's the way it's going to be. Wide receiver, left tackle, they've been sore spots for this team. Get ready, because that's probably not going to change. It is unlikely to change. So long as the Kansas City Chiefs keep winning 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games per season, so long as the Kansas City Chiefs keep going to the Super Bowl, so long as the Kansas City Chiefs keep collecting Super Bowl rings, they are going to be drafting late in the process. Wide receivers go early. Left tackles go early. Impact defensive tackles go early. It's a good thing the Kansas City Chiefs already have a quarterback. So what is there to take from the fact that out of 38 wide receivers, 11 of them have been more productive than Skyy Moore, 9 of those selected before Skyy Moore? What is to take from that? I think Brett Veach may have learned his lesson about trying to trade back in the draft. Unfortunately, it might be the wrong lesson. We have seen him get more and more aggressive in the wake of the George Pickens fiasco. We have seen that. Trading up to get the guys that he wants. It's worked so far. It's worked since Skyy Moore, for the most part. You only have so much ammo. In the Kansas City Chiefs, the amazing thing about this team and this general manager and this front office so far has been they have found ways to pick up pennies and turn them into quarters. You are signing an undrafted rookie free agent linebacker. Okay, he's going to start 8 games. They've been able to do that. You sign an undrafted offensive lineman out of Mizzou named Yasir Durant. Okay, you get to flip him to the Patriots for 7th round pick that ends up becoming Jalen Watson. They've been able to do that. We have also seen increasing hesitance towards making deals with the Kansas City Chiefs because nobody wants that egg on their face. And if Xavier Worthy ends up being what he can be, what he has the potential to be, someone in Buffalo is losing their job. It's interesting to look at all of these wide receivers in that 2022 NFL draft, and as hard as we have gone on Skyy Moore, guys, we don't know that it was a bust yet. Skyy Moore has this season at least to make up some ground. B, what else were they going to do? Yes, I know. Stay where they were, draft George Pickens. You know as well as I do, at that point, 2022, with that player, George Pickens, and his injury history, had they selected George Pickens with all of the reason in the world, we would have been shouting Sammy Part 2 from the rooftops, and we would have been right. It would have been a gamble. He looked like Sammy Watkins in college. He looked like the NFL Sammy Watkins in college. And there was a very large percentage chance that George Pickens was going to wash out of the NFL. Go back, read the scouting reports on George Pickens. It's all there. But looking at these numbers, looking at these names, looking at these draft positions, it's difficult to really do too much finger wagging at Brett Veach and the Kansas City Chiefs for the selection of Skyy Moore. So let's sit back. Let's see if either of Kadarius Toney or Skyy Moore ends up turning things on for this season in the NFL. And if either of them can do it, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice at some point, Xavier Worthy if he lives up to the billing, and one of those guys that pushes, if one of those guys becomes who they can be, Kadarius Toney and Skyy Moore, if one of those guys becomes ascends to the type of wide receiver they are capable of being, that pushes Justin Watson down to the number 5 spot. Justin Watson is a phenomenal 5th receiver. Not great when you're sending him out there at X, right? Not somebody that you want sending out there for your number 1 or number 2 wide receiver spot. But at number 5, he's going to be a mismatch nightmare for some of the 5'9" cornerbacks in the NFL. Anyway, is this type of article clickbait for trade bait? Yes. But that doesn't mean we can't have some fun talking about it. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And if you find yourself, subscribe. That's what I'm trying to say. Subscribe, stick around. I hope to have you here for the next one.